Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Mark mentioned the strong line of thunderstorms now going through Center County, and eventually it'll get to the valley. And just beware of that. Yesterday was obviously a rough day. So we're looking at the thunderstorms again. And by the way, if you're wondering if you're a Penn State basketball fan, what Lamar Stevens has decided, he hasn't announced it yet. So I can tell you that Caleb Wesson is going back to Ohio State. I can tell you that Isaiah Roby is leaving Nebraska for the NBA draft. Those I do know, but we don't know yet about what Lamar's decision is, and he has until midnight tonight to make up his mind. Or at least announce what his intention happens to be. Again, as I pointed out yesterday, he does not have the option of waiting past today. He doesn't have that option. Because he was not invited to the NBA Combine. If you're invited to the NBA Combine and don't get drafted, you do have the option of going back to school. Well, Lamar wasn't invited to the NBA Combine, so it has to be today where he announces what he's doing and going from there. So we play the waiting game. And Stanley Cup will be tonight. NBA Finals start tomorrow. I thought Dan Patrick's commentary was spot on. That we talk much, much, much more about all the ancillary stuff and we don't talk about the games are anticlimactic. Well, no offense, but the last I checked, the games are the reason we watch. The ancillary stuff I don't like. But again, Caleb Wesson, he'll return for his junior year at Ohio State. Isaiah Roby will stay in the NBA draft and lead Nebraska. And Eugene Omaruri, who is without question Rutgers' best player, he shocked everybody at Rutgers last night and announced he's transferring. Rozier Bolton is decided that he wants to go to Iowa State, so that's the next stop for him. And again, we're waiting on what Lamar Stevens wants to do. The only Penn State basketball news I had today is Patrick Chambers bought new golf clubs. Yeah. No. Then there is this one. Now we're talking about players going, into the draft, staying out of the draft, but you're allowed to have an agent. Well, there's actually a caveat in there. Listen to this story. And good day, Sean. Good to have you there.
Great to be back, sir. You bet.
The NCAA rule designed to help players explore the NBA draft by allowing them to sign with an agent and still return to school does not apply to all college players. It was a stunning revelation for Phil Bledsoe of Division II Glenville. Glenville State is in West Virginia. When he learned that the rule adopted amid the college basketball scandal only applies to Division I players. Bledsoe followed the meticulous guidelines outlined by the NCAA to take advantage of the rule. And then he found out Tuesday that the restriction leaves him entangled in bureaucratic limbo and his college status unclear. He pulled out of the draft before tonight's deadline. Bill Lilly is the dismayed compliance coordinator at Glenville State. He says, this didn't need to happen. He says, I could have avoided it, but we could have had some help here in avoiding this thing, too, because we weren't trying to sneak anything by anyone. We were just trying to give the kid the option we thought he had, and now it turns out he doesn't have it. The NCAA did not immediately respond to inquiries about why the rule doesn't apply to all college basketball players. However, one thing is clear. Compliance officers play a pivotal role in deciphering the rules. The NCAA allows schools to communicate directly with the NBA when notifying the league of a player's intent to enter, then withdraw from the draft. Well, Bledsoe sought out Maryland-based agent Jerry Deannis as he declared for the draft with the intent of maintaining his college eligibility. Deannis had previously attended an NBA Players Association seminar in recent months where NCAA representatives had attended to discuss the new rule, while Lilly said that he spoke with a colleague and twice consulted with the NBA, which is focused on who was entering the draft and who was withdrawing, and not who plans to return to school based on NCAA guidelines. Still, no one working with Bledsoe foresaw a problem. Everyone collectively there thought that this was across all divisions. From the agent to the compliance officer to the head coach to the player, we were all in one accord. The rule was implemented last August. It permits agents to cover minimal travel expenses for team meetings and workouts, though those contracts must end if the player withdraws from the draft and returns to school. Simple enough, right? The rules adopted by the Division I Board of Directors. Well, it turns out that the rule applies to Division I. And so this kid now is in limbo. Where do they find these people? That's what I wanted to. I mean, who comes up with this stuff? I mean, I don't blame the compliance guy. I don't blame anybody. It comes out that that's the rule. They didn't tell anybody, just applied to Division I. Ay, ay, ay. I always put this under the category of some days you wonder. Some days you wonder. I don't know. So, the only two Big Ten players, by the way, that have not announced their intentions, by the way, happen to be Amir Coffey of Minnesota and Lamar Stevens. Okay? Just so you know, they're the only ones left. Two good players. To be honest with you, I thought we'd know by now. So, we mentioned yesterday Penn State will play Patrick Ewing's Georgetown Hoyas in the Gavitt Games. That'll be on Thursday, November 14th in D.C. at Capital One Arena. Which means that there are great restaurants around Capital One Arena.
Oh, yes, yeah. There's quite a few of those during the Big Ten tournament a couple of years ago.
Oh, Dick and I already have scoped it.
Yes.
That was actually the primary text yesterday.
First thing you thought of, we'll go back to eat there. There you go.
Well, you got to live the life that we live. I mean, it's like, George, okay, where are we going here? I mean, we're like, although I might have to go down the day of the game. It's a Thursday. Do I have to? Yeah, I probably have to go down the day of the game. Like, leave that morning. But, yeah, that's... Yeah. So that's the waiting game we're playing right now. The Chris did a great job yesterday. Lawrence did a great job yesterday. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else that stepped up yesterday.
Oh, the dude that was down in the basement bunker for a good hunk of the afternoon.
Oh, for goodness sakes. You know, I mean, Elio's out there. Chris is like, he's right there getting it done. I'm getting text messages from Lawrence. And naturally, of course, we find out somebody's in the fetal position in the basement. It's like, come on. What's going on here? Well, I guess that they heard and felt something go by.
It's pretty crazy. We were talking about it this morning, and it sounded like down the other side of the hill of our WKOK transmitters, they could have sworn something was brewing down that end of the hill, but luckily nothing came to fruition out of it. So pretty nuts. But we're getting another series of that's the northern tier.
Yeah.
Portion of Sullivan County right now is under a tornado warning. That's Sullivan County. So no, we're just getting started with that. So,
well, it's amazing though. Have tornadoes hit Pennsylvania along the way? I remember 30 years ago, a little more than 30 years ago, there was a tornado that hit the northern tier up through Elk County. It's Memorial Day weekend. I remember then going through there a year later. Kathy and I were traveling up to visit relatives in New York. And we saw the area that was all cut up. Boy, I don't remember a lot of tornadoes in this state. I really don't. It's not exactly.
We've already had more this year compared to last year.
I mean,
we're pushing 20 now, statewide.
Yeah.
I remember this time late May 1985. There was a very, very.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, was it 85?
That's what I'm talking about.
85?
That was Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
85 Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, I remember like the last day of May also that month. Maybe that's when Memorial Day landed that year. But, yeah, very, very strong storms that year.
Yeah.
That day.
And, they coincide with boring Indy 500s, and it's just like, the last couple of years, that's not funny. He sends me a text on Sunday.
Every time I flip that race on Sunday, they're in a commercial break at a split screen.
Oh, you know what? Everybody knows that you have to pit after every 32 laps. Okay? Anybody who follows it knows. And it seemed like they get to lap 32, 64. Hey, we're going to go to a break. Like, hey, this is the only time any passing happens. What's going on here?
That must be where they strategically take those local breaks during the race. Must be when that happens.
Yay. Yeah. I mean, the ratings were higher than they were. It's the highest in 3 years. But for the first 180 laps, nothing happened. I mean, it was like watching an NBA game. Hey, great, 5 minutes to go. I think I'll tune in.
Mike Tirico, though. Tirico getting it done. And then
Tirico always gets it done.
Absolutely he does. And then the next day he was in Boston since NBC had a Stanley Cup on Monday night. He was hosting pregame and intermissions for Game 1.
Yeah, they put him in the old Bob Costas role.
That's right.
Well, he's doing very, very well. But I get this text from the series of texts that you probably got texted too, right?
Oh, I was texting him back, cheering on Will Power, looking for I was hoping for Will Power to repeat. He can't stand Will Power.
Right.
So I was rooting for. So make sure you text out. Make sure you tweet and Facebook and text out a sports alert that Will Power win his second straight Indy 500. And he says, "Nah, my fingers aren't going to work for that."
All right. I said, this is a great race. They're hitting guys in the pits, hitting walls. Caddyshack's on AMC, in case you're wondering. Right? Then he texted me back, small team mistakes. Then I texted him, well, Castro Neves just belted a car in the pits. All right, that's a bigger team. And I texted him, doesn't Islip have figure eight racing? Might as well watch that. Then he gets lots of passing, though. I said, well, I texted him back, what passing? Up front, the only passing happens in the pits. He said, nobody cares about somebody who passes somebody for 20th. Right? Now Will Powers hit a guy. I said, Jennerstown has smoother nights. Right?
Our guy, Kyle Alexander, up in the booth at Selinsgrove Speedway. You kidding me?
Right. Then I said, Marco Andretti just passed somebody. Then mileage in the Chevys, big question. More power, but less fuel mileage than the Hondas. I texted back. I said, play with the lead.
It's amazing how that works in many sports.
Then they showed a shot of the Stanley Cup, and I texted them, "Wow, they finally showed a real trophy." 430 track passes. That means Pocono will be awesome. I texted him back. No offense, that only means something if it's for the lead. Nobody cares if Scott Dixon passes for ninth. Right? Tell me I'm wrong.
33rd to 9th. Come on, he's surging.
Yeah.
But how many laps?
Baby, go.
But how many laps are left?
Come on. Scott Dixon just passed for 8th. Yes. Man, if you are not the lead dog, the view does not change. Okay, that's why the whole thing where they're trying to make it so dramatic. All right, I'm watching this thing. They're trying to make it so dramatic. Oh, fuel problem. Oh, they're mad at Pagenaud. Right? I'm sitting there like, have you watched racing before? Right? I can guarantee you there'll be an accident, and guess what? They'll go 15 laps at slow speed, and suddenly gas mileage won't be a problem anymore. Play with the lead. You run out of gas and it's not your day, it's not your day. You run out of gas.
Sunday night in the NASCAR race down in Charlotte, they must have had, 14, 15 cautions?
NASCAR, first of all, let's start with this. Stop with the starting and stopping. Okay? Like, get in there and run 600 miles. Just go. Here's stage one. Who cares who wins stage one?
Yeah, I'll admit that confuses me when they have laps left in stage. I mean, okay, but how many laps are left in the race?
Just run the race. We do this in stages. Really?
So I guess they do that now so they accumulate bonus points and they rack them up as they get to where...
Nobody cares about the points. I mean, nobody does. Seriously, I'm talking about the fans. Oh, if Tiger wins the Memorial this week, he'll get 500 FedEx Cup points. I mean, do you think that's the buzz in the crowd? They're so buzz about this. It's make-believe. That's what I love about these things. I know you're trying to build up to something, but you're not building up to anything. Great news. Justin Rose won the FedEx Cup. Okay, who won the Masters? Okay, I just bottom lined it for you. Boy, did you see all the points that Jimmy Johnson accumulated? Who won the Daytona 500? Well, what about the points? Who won the Daytona 500? I mean, this weekend, IndyCar's racing in Detroit. I mean, Detroit doesn't even know. We'll come back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you. The other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to be with you. On this Wednesday, the Phillies play the Cardinals tonight. That is a 7:05 start. 6:30 will be the airtime here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Aaron Nola on the mound tonight for the Titans.
Yes. Let's see. John Rothstein reporting that Andrew Nebhard is going to go back to Florida. Isaiah Roby is leaving Nebraska. Killian Tilly is going back to Gonzaga. Benjamin Stevick is going back to Creighton. But again, Isaiah Roby's going to the NBA draft. Nathan Knight going back to William & Mary. Brandon Randolph, though, is leaving Arizona. He's going to stay in the draft. So, there you go. And the ones that affect Penn State, Caleb Wesson staying at Ohio State. Joe Wieskamp staying at Iowa. Eugene Omaruri shocked everybody at Rutgers last night. Something right around midnight. Sends out a deal that he's transferring. He's Rutgers' best player, transferring. Amir Coffey has not announced yet what he's doing, whether he's going back to Minnesota or he's going to stay in the draft, and we obviously have not heard yet what Lamar Stevens is going to be doing. Let's see. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the Sunbury Motors studio until 4:30 this afternoon. They're very specific about the Sunbury. I'll tell you right now, it is dark out here. Dark.
It's pretty crazy. A lot of my Facebook friends that live in and around Selinsgrove posting pictures of the hail that they picked up yesterday. Actually, our former broadcast colleague, Drew Kelly, he had a golf ball in the house. So in the palm of his hand, he had a golf ball, and around the golf ball in his hand was the chunks of hail. Exact same size as the golf ball.
Yeah, hail is... It's one of those... It's an interesting phenomenon, but... I mean, the damage it does, it could just ruin siding, it ruins cars, it ruins windshields. Just a quick note for Suit Light and the family at home. Dad is still in the fetal position in the basement.
Oh, he went down there already? Oh, okay. Last I saw, he was in the office.
Never left.
Oh.
I'm telling you right now.
They did look a little famished this morning. Guess now we know why. Now we know the rest of the story.
I think he'll make it.
He'll be fine.
I think he's going to be all right. So, yeah. The Phillies have played, obviously. First of all, this is what I like about the Phillies. I think they're an entertaining team, and I pointed that out a couple times in the last week. Some teams win, and look, you got to be able to put together how you win. Okay, that whatever works based on the people you have. So I completely understand that. But it's a lot more fun when you have a team that not only is winning, and the Phillies right now are 10 games over, they're 32-22, but they're entertaining. They're entertaining. I mean, the Phillies are a fun team to watch. And I think that, to me, is that's really good for fans. I want an entertaining team. And, that wins, obviously. I mean, you can be entertaining, they can be the lovable losers, but but you look at the lineup, Hoskins, obviously, big-time player. Gene Segura, the second they made that trade, you know how effusive of my praise for that happened to be. I don't think I could have praised it anymore. I'll give you one. Okay, let's take the Pirates. The Pirates, to their credit, are off to a decent start. Now, I know they're a game under, but to be honest with you, they are not a fun team to watch. I mean, and again, they've got to be able to go out and play and win the way they can play and win. They are not a fun team to watch. And you watch them and you're like, what else is on? Yankees lead San Diego 7-0 in the top of the ninth inning. I think the Yankees are in a good spot there. Oakland and the Angels scoreless top of the first. Mariners and Texas scoreless top of the first. And the Pirates are scoreless with the Reds on the top of the fourth. The start of that had been delayed by rain anyway. So that's what part of their afternoon. Let's see. When's our next afternoon Phillies game? It's not tomorrow, is it?
Yes, there is one tomorrow. And then we have another one next Wednesday, 1 week from today, on June 5th.
Oh.
Yeah, Phillies have a getaway game tomorrow with St. Louis before they head out to L.A. for the Dodgers for a weekend series. Got the Dodgers and the Padres next week. So some late-night baseball coming up this weekend.
All right, let's get to this one here. The head of the National Football League Players Association, DeMaurice Smith, sent a letter to all the player agents asking them to urge players to save their money in the event of a year-long work stoppage in 2021. Sports Business Journal reported this. Okay. We are advising players to plan for a work stoppage of at least a year in length, Smith wrote in the letter. The copy was obtained by ESPN. We are also encouraging players to save 50% of their salary and bonuses and to save the entirety of their performance-based pay amounts they should earn over the next 2 regular seasons. Talks of a potential work stoppage when the collective bargaining agreement ends after the 2020 season have been ongoing for months as players continue to speak out against it. According to ESPN, one union source describes the letter as part of our ongoing message to negotiate for the best but prepare for the worst possible outcome. Having a membership that is financially stable will only increase the chances of NFLPA player leadership getting a new CBA that will benefit not only the players currently in the NFL, but also players that come after them and the ones that came before them. ESPN reported in January that teams were using language in coaches' new contracts to protect themselves in the event of a work stoppage, which prompted a cryptic tweet from the NFLPA. These contract provisions were also seen in the lead-up to the 2011 lockout, was the NFLPA tweet. The NFL and NFLPA have started negotiations on a new collective bargaining agreement, though the two sides have yet to reach an agreement. In the meantime, the league will kick off its 100th season by honoring its oldest rivalry with the Bears and the Packers on September 5th. They will definitely play this upcoming season. They will definitely play the season after that. It's the 2021 season that has people nervous as to whether they're going to be locked out or strike. Sports strikes are, and sports lockouts, they don't sit well with fans because look, the fan is smart enough to know, and the fan is smart enough to know that this is not the 9-to-5 laborer that is trying to get an extra break at work, trying to get more money in an overall union contract so they can pay their bills. Hey, this is millionaires striking against billionaires. Or billionaires locking out millionaires. That's why these things, you've got to see it from their point. From what point of view? I'm sorry, but let's do a quick poll. How many of you out there would like to be a professional athlete making the salary they make? And would you strike over it? I'm sorry, the average guy, the average woman who's over there busting their backside going paycheck to paycheck, they don't have any sympathy for this. None. Zero. And why should they? Why should they have sympathy for it? Baseball never totally recovered from the strike of 94. Remember the old story? The Dodgers had 32,000 season ticket holders in 1994. Right now they got 8,000. That's what they have. It's just the. Yeah. And then you've got the situation with, which I talked about in the promo that for today, because I'm going to get into it, about transfers. Rozier Bolton, by the way, is going to go to Iowa State. Now, he's going to petition to play right away next year. I ain't going to bother wasting my time commenting on that. But all of these, the NCAA, there's some items that they have worked at that are good. Right? One of them is stipends. Another one is nutrition stations. Walk-ons can be included now and all that. I mean, that's good stuff. But there are too many other things where you just sit there and the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And I don't understand the thought process and the decision making in all this. When Tate Martell won the right to play right away at Miami, I looked around and said, what the heck's going on here? I'm sorry, but I took a middle of the road for a little bit just to get a better feel for all of this. But now I'm steadfast. You have to sit out a year. Enough's enough. Enough's enough. In our business, in what we do, and it's not universal, but it used to be a lot more prevalent in our business. You had to sign a non-compete. So in other words, Sean is sitting there, and under a non-compete, he couldn't jump to a rival radio station and be on the air tomorrow. He'd have to sit out, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And it happens among network individuals. Now, she right now is in dry dock, but Megyn Kelly, when she left Fox News, she didn't show up on NBC for 9 months. Well, that's because she couldn't. So professionally, you either have buyouts or you have to sit out. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. I ran into him at lunch, and he just switched insurance companies here in State College. He was telling me about his clients at his old place, and, they were sorry to see him go and so forth. So I asked him, I said, well, how many of those clients have now become new clients at your new place? He says, a couple. He said, but I am not allowed to actively recruit anybody. I'd be in violation. They have to come to me. See, there are all restrictions in work in the real world all the time. All the time. Yet when it comes to, the poor athlete, but poor what? You know what? Being an athlete is difficult. Balancing school and being an athlete is difficult. No getting around it. Okay? So let's establish that. But here at Penn State, you have complete use of the Morgan Academic Center. You have complete access to tutors. You have people helping you put your schedule together that fit what you're doing athletically. You've got outstanding strength training. You've got outstanding speed training. You've got outstanding sports performance that has all the data about what you're doing. You're getting outstanding position coaching. You're getting outstanding head coaching along the way. You're playing before 107,000 people. And by the way, they give you a stipend every single month, free food, free books, and no tuition. Right? No offense. You're not walking through the fires of hell. We'll come back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. It's interesting how teamwork is so important in sports. And we talk all the time about that. Look, we completely understand that football and men's basketball, they're the ones that make money. They've got the radio contracts, the TV contracts. Football especially has the attendance. Although, even Penn State basketball this year, I'm not talking about attendance. In terms of tickets sold, and tickets sold, of course, do mean something because that is revenue. Penn State averaged over 9,000 tickets sold per basketball game this past season. Right, so that that's a plus. No getting around it. So when you're talking about money, well, look at everything they earn off of that. But that money goes to support everything else. You want a quality ice hockey program? You need money. And men's ice hockey does make a small profit. You want great wrestling? Well, guess what? You need money. All right. They support themselves as far as they can, but they come up short. Well, the shortfall's picked up by football and basketball money. You want quality lacrosse. All right, same story. Can't support themselves. All these sports cannot support themselves. They can't sustain it. In a business model, a pure business model, people sit down in a pure business model and they ask the question, okay, what is not sustaining itself? And then they have to make hard decisions about what's not sustaining themselves. Well, in college sports, you work, if you make enough money in enough areas, it balances the budgets for everybody. Now, if you start paying football and basketball players, as I've stated over and over again, guess what? You can't keep everybody. And that's the part I don't want to see. I don't want to see it where I just don't want to see where sports are dropped because there's this movement to start. Look, they get a lot. You get a stipend. You get tuition free. You have no debt when you leave. You get your books paid for. You get your food paid for. You get great strength training, sports performance, speed training, right? Individual coaching, film work, practices. You play for 100,000 people, right? Look, I know players want to go early to drafts and so forth. You've been poor for 21 years. You've been
Your
poor
station
for 21
for
years and
news,
9
weather,
months.
business, and CBS Sports Radio. News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury and on WKOK.com.